This week in biology, you guys learned about evidence of evolution. Part of your learning discussed how fossils show patterns of evolution. This means that fossils prove that evolution happened.
So one thing we can learn about from these fossils are derived traits, and these are newly evolved characteristics that animals get over time. So for example, a bird's feathers are a derived trait. Their ancestors, like the pterodactyl, the dinosaur, did not have feathers. So the feathers are the newly evolved derived trait on the bird.
Another part that you learned about was ancestral traits. Ancestral traits mean that they were primitive, or another word for primitive is original features of certain animals. In this case, we give you an example of the South American finch. The South American finch shows that the beak was passed down to future generations. And as you can see, the beak changed over time, but the common ancestral trait is that they all have beaks.
All right, so one type of ancestral trait is a homologous structure. So a homologous structure is a body part, and you could say it has the same construction but serves a different function. Or in other words, the body part is the same thing but it does a different job. So one example of this is limbs that animals have. So for example, a human has an arm with fingers and then it uses it to grab. A cat also has an arm, but it's leg and it uses it to run. The whale's arm is used to swim, and the bat's arm is used to fly. So they're all generally the same type of structure or body part, but they're used for different things.
And another structure you learned about was a vestigial structure. So for example, an example of a vestigial structure is the appendix. The appendix, a lot of people get it taken out when, hopefully before it bursts. Also, your tonsils can get taken out because you don't need those body parts. So vestigial structures means that it's a smaller body part that loses its function or is not as functional anymore because over time we stopped using these functions in our bodies. The tailbone is another example of a vestigial structure because over time we stopped using or having use for a tailbone. It's possible that our ancestors at some point had a use for the tailbone, but we as humans now do not have use. So the tailbone is an example of vestigial structure. Our appendix is an example of a vestigial structure, and again, our tonsils are all examples of vestigial structures, meaning that we no longer have use or they no longer serve a function in our bodies.
Okay, so the last type of structure is analogous, and in contrast to homologous, which has the same ancestor, analogous structures, in those the animals do not have the same ancestor. So for example, a dragonfly and a bird do not have the same ancestor. And we know this because even though they both have wings, which they use for the same purpose, they use to fly, they are made out of different things. So their structures are slightly different. The dragonfly has veins and the bird uses its muscles and bones to fly. So even though they're used for the same thing, they're made in different ways. And so kind of knowing that they have these analogous structures, these different structures, we know that they come from a different ancestor. And that is a summary of what you guys learned about evidence for evolution. Okay, so now that we have reviewed evolution, we are going to answer the following questions. So number one, what are vestigial structures? How would you describe vestigial structures? Number 2, what is an example of a vestigial structure? An example of a vestigial structure. Number 3, what did you learn about evolution? Number 4, butterflies and birds both use wings to fly, but they do not share a common ancestor. What is this structure called? So thinking about the structures and what you learned, go ahead and answer these questions. And you're going to record your answers using vocaroo.com. So the way you do this is you go to the website vocaroo.com, you click to record your answers. So after you've saved your video, it will take you to this page, and you're going to copy this link right here. Then go to your haiku page, and under number 2, record your answers, you're going to press settings, edit, scroll down, and here is where you will paste your answers and then, or your recording. Then you will press save. After that, you have finished this part of the assignment. Good luck.